doing using my brand new telephone. And so this, I'm hoping that there will be no more failures as there was last week with the internet going off. Having said that, that wasn't actually due to the telephone itself. It might have been due to the telephone speed. This is a dedicated 5G unit. It is the top of the range from Samsung, so it should be okay. Right, as it's a live chat, you can actually ask questions should you so want. And today I'm going to be talking about yet another woman from the Third Reich, and that is Lida Baarova. And this story here is a story of, well, real estate. It's a story of graft, and it's a story of infidelity. So it's got a bit of everything. Now, Josef Goebbels became the Gauleiter of Berlin, and in 1933, when the Nazis seized power, he became the Minister of Propaganda. The word propaganda isn't probably, I think, then probably doesn't mean the same as it does today. Today, it's a negative word, and I think then it was more a case of meaning something like public information, because his real title was Minister of Propaganda and Public Enlightenment. And being in charge of public enlightenment did mean to say that he controlled the film industry, and which was great if you needed to check out some starlets that came your way. So anyway, he was married to Magda, and they had a number of children. And Josef, who incidentally, despite I think this is quite common with lots of men who are really jealous. He was who are unfaithful. He was also really jealous, and I think there was quite a lot of strain within their marriage. Magda Göbbels is often thought to be someone who's really attractive. Obviously, taste is in the eye of the beholder, or rather, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. In 1933, so he became Minister of Propaganda, and then he got a official place to actually live. Now, if you know Berlin, right, so I'll explain to you where he was living. He was living Hermann Goering Strasse 20. It's now Ebertstrasse. So where is that? That is, well, you've got the Reichstag. If you come a bit further along from the Reichstag, you've got the Brandenburg Gate. And next to the Brandenburg Gate, you've got the Tiergarten. You used to have the wall sort of running around here. Now, in front of the Tiergarten, you've got what is now the Holocaust Memorial. So it's a really huge monument. And then there's some buildings. And in that place where the Holocaust Museum and then those next buildings actually stood, that was once the Reich Chancellery. And behind that is a place called a street called Wilhelmstrasse. And even one of the trials, the post-Nuremberg trials, was called the Wilhelmstrasse trial because it referred to the ministries. So something called the ministries trial. Actually, in English, it's normally called the ministries trial. So in German, it's called the Wilhelmstrasse trial. And in this area, next to where his propaganda ministry was, he had his own dwelling. So he was living there, bang in the center of Berlin. But now that he was a big shot in the Third Reich, he's still in his 30s, and he clearly thought that he deserved some of the benefits of power. And one of those benefits, of course, would be a rather flash place to live. Now, coming back to a map of Berlin, so if you know where the Havel is, a big lake, it's on the western part of Berlin, and at the bottom of the Havel Lake is Wannsee. But if you got in the S-Bahn, you don't go all the way to Wannsee, but you get off at Nikolassee, that's a stop before Wannsee, and then you walk towards the Havel, and you go past a big bathing place with some 1930s architecture, but you come to an island which is in the lake, and this is called Schwannenwerder. And in 1895, I think it was, there was a property developer discovered this island, and what he did, he turned it into a gated community. This is the earliest example of a gated community. Now, in the United States, gated communities are quite popular, much less so in Europe. But what they normally have is not only that a gating to stop people getting in who shouldn't be there, but they also have things like rules, what can be done and what can't be done inside this community. So there'd be things like you can't park big white vans, for example, in there, and that sort of thing you get today. But in those days, a number of conditions were actually made, including, for example, no business activities, etc. Now, in the aftermath of World War One, this took some time to actually get going, but then it started attracting some very wealthy people from Berlin. Bankers, for example, business people, and others actually had their homes on Schwanenwerder, and it's a very attractive place. In my opinion, the property there must be worth an absolute fortune. But in the 20s, it was even more so than today, because at the end of the Second World War, and because of its location next to the wall, next to the wall, close to the wall, close to the border, it sort of lost its raison d'etre somewhat, and particularly with people leaving Berlin. But anyway, now I think it seems to have come back. Anyway, the thing that people who lived on Schwanenwerder, there was a majority of Jewish people who actually lived there. Goebbels knew it from the time he was a rabble rouser in the late 20s, early 30s, before the Nazis came to power. He called it Schweinenwerder, and he tried to get the SA and others to actually attack houses on the island. The thing was, in those days, the police were still protecting the public against the thugs, and so that didn't really work out for him. Now, anyway, so he spotted a property there, either he or Magda. I think we might have probably more likely to have been Magda spotted the property in Inselstrasse. The thing is that it's only one strasse. Everything's Inselstrasse there, so it goes round in a circle. And so this property was actually spotted there, but Goebbels, he didn't yet know how to profit from the Third Reich properly. And so he wanted some cash. He mentioned the problems to Hitler, and Hitler sort of came up with an idea. Hitler spoke to Max Amann, who was in charge of the Nazi publishing house, and Max Amann arranged for Goebbels to get an advance on his diaries, which would be published 25 years after his death. I think it was 25, maybe 30, but whatever. It was a totally absurd business proposition, which just it was graft, nothing else. But anyway, that gave Goebbels the money to pay for the property, and so he bought this property in Inselstrasse in Schwanenwerder. And now, I have a theory. I don't know if this can't prove this. Just it might happen, it might not happen. But anyway, Goebbels saw who was starring in what films. No, not Hitler. Hitler was he was a bit of a film buff, but then Hitler wasn't trying out the starlets in the evenings, whereas Goebbels was. And it just so happened that one of the residents of the I think of the property next to theirs belonged to Lida Baarova. Oh, sorry, it was rented by, I should say, Gerhard Fröhlich and his then girlfriend Lida Baarova, who was a Czech actress. Now, whilst there one night, I think he had an argument with Magda, but then again, he had an argument with Magda most days. So whenever they met each other, Goebbels suggested that so I've got a vehicle sort of parking next to me. Seems to have got stuck in the mud and probably doesn't know how to park properly. But anyway, Goebbels suggested that he have a look around the house, and that's a very British thing to do, in fact, to go around looking at other people's real estate. Anyway, so he went, they invited him in and he showed them around, and that's how he met Lida Baarova. I don't know if the property was arranged. I mean, it does seem to me like a lot of money to actually spend on a property trying just so you can get in with some lass. Now, Lida Baarova played the sort of the vamp roles, the roles that were deigned to be not suited for German ladies in National Socialism. So, but these are the sort of roles which are very popular in films. So she was getting these roles in these films. Now, the strange thing is though, is that Goebbels, who had been totally disloyal to his wife, and then he had the run, and later had the run of as many, or maybe not as many lasses as he wanted, but a lot of lasses. He became infatuated by Lida Baarova, a young actor. She was only 21 years old when they met. Fröhlich was a little bit older. Now, he managed to bump into her a few times and all the rest of it. But one day, so there was an incident where Goebbels, Lida was at home. She hears a car outside. She goes to see who it is, thinking it's a boyfriend, but it's not. It's Josef Goebbels. And anyway, so she starts talking to him. She puts her foot onto the running board that they used to have on the cars in those days, and she's talking to him. At this moment, Fröhlich comes back, and then he puts two and two together, and he gets 17. And he goes berserk. So what's going on here? So now we know where we stand, Herr Minister. And he then storms into the house. Lida offers excuses for her boyfriend, then goes in after him. But he sees, when he gets into the house, he sees that she'd left a handbag. The handbag was in there, so clearly they hadn't been out for a night or day on the town or whatever to get on the casting couch or whatever. So next day, Fröhlich telephones Goebbels to actually apologize, and so he does that. Now, the thing was that Goebbels was working on Lida Baarova all the time. On his 39th birthday in 1936, Goebbels managed to wangle getting a property in a place called Lanka. And this is to the northeast or northeast of Berlin. I was there last month. It's sufficiently close to the motorway, so you can actually hear the motorway, although I suspect that in those days, maybe, although vehicles were noisier then, maybe there wasn't such the humming all the time. But it is, as he wrote in his diary when he found the place, or rather Hanke, who was seeing his missus at the time, and later the Gauleiter of Breslau, he said Hanke's come up really topsy and all around solitude, nothing but solitude, or almost words to that effect he wrote in his diary. So there was a lake at Lanka, and there was a little sort of a forester's cottage sort of thing which he had built. Now today you can go there, and he's got this magnificent large country manor house which is there, but that wasn't there in the days of Lida. That was built in 1939, 1940. So when he was seeing Lida, he only had a small place. But he'd often used to take it out there as well. Now, sometime around the time he acquired Lanka, Lida dropped Fröhlich and started seeing Goebbels in his place. Now, Fröhlich, just sort of finish the story off. He was one of very few actors he was called up during the Second World War. He played the sort of the cavalier. No, that's not the right word. How can I put it? He's like the charming male lead in films, the sort of like David Niven sort of person, or Cary Grant, or that type of person he played. And he after the Second World War, he took up his career, and he just continued. He wasn't contaminated by Nazism in any way. Now the problem was that Magda got to find out about this relationship between the two of them. I mean, it wasn't a secret. I think everybody actually knew it. But Goebbels, he was infatuated, and he wanted to be with her. Indeed, he sent her a message telling her that he's told his wife everything, that his wife knows all about it, and she's prepared to accept the situation, and she wants to meet Lida to discuss it. So anyway, so Lida came around to see Magda. Now Magda was a bit plastered at the time. She'd had a number of cognacs, and Lida started crying and said, no, she wants to go back to Czechoslovakia. And then Magda said, no, you mustn't do that. He needs us. He needs you. He needs me. He needs us both. You can't do that. Now, you've got to stay with him. Now, in the meantime, just before this happened, Magda spotted another property, Inselstrasse number 12, and this belonged, sorry, I should say present tense, this belonged to a Jewish banker. And the Goebbels arranged for the property to be effectively stolen by the city of Berlin, and it was sold onto him at an absurdly ridiculous knockdown price. But what Goebbels started to do was he called this place his castle, his castle, and he would go there to escape from Magda. Now, but he had this plan, which was the following. It was that the three of them would live together with his kids. Now, neither Magda nor Lida seemed to think this was a particularly good idea. But Magda, realizing that, possibly glad to get a shot of him, I don't know. But it suggested that, okay, these are the rules. That you can get up to whatever you want to get up to, but in the other house. You've got to, it's no getting pregnant, and there's no appearing together in public. So anyway, now Lida, I think, to a large extent, was trapped. There wasn't much she could do as far as this was concerned. If she wanted to work and continue doing what she was doing, continue her career, then the problem was that she she had to continue to be with Goebbels. Maybe she wanted to be with him, maybe she didn't. I don't know. I can't actually say. Now, anyway, so Lida was spending her time between Lanka and Inselstrasse, where Goebbels was. Magda promised to keep out of the way, but she didn't. So she'd see the two of them together, or she'd call Lida over. She'd make some nasty, bitchy remark, and this type of thing. There was, however, I need to point out with Magda, though, she was quite realistic, because, I mean, even later she said something along the lines of, well, I can't possibly compete with these girls who are 20 years younger than me. They haven't given birth to all of these children, 6 children, 5 with him, or maybe it wasn't 5, maybe it was 1 or 2 with him, who knows. And so there was this this rather odd menage a trois going on. There are also stories from Lanka. For example, Goebbels going out there with Lida, and he's got the manservant who was called Kaiser, who looked after Mr. Kaiser. He was from here, from Gdansk, and he burnt the potatoes, the only food they had. In those days, you couldn't just nip out to Lidl and get some more potatoes. And so little things like this. Not only that, but at Lanka, they certainly didn't sleep in the same rooms. They had separate rooms, and they used to leave there at 5 o'clock in the morning, so they get into Berlin early enough to do whatever they were doing. Goebbels to his ministry, and Lida to her filming. The film industry was based then, I think it might still be based in Babelsberg, which is close to Potsdam, which isn't in any case really all that far from Wannsee, so other side of the former border. Well, there's a border, but it's not a visible border any longer. So anyway, the problem was with all this that this wasn't very good, because the first family of the Third Reich was the Goebbels family. Hitler didn't have any kids. Edda Goering didn't show any great interest in being the first lady of the Third Reich. So really, it came down to Goebbels. Here he was with this wonderful iron-looking wife, these iron-looking kids, and him it looks nothing like iron. And he was sort of the model for others to follow. And so clearly, any problems, they couldn't actually get divorced. But in 1937, there came a day, and Lida, 38, and Magda told Goebbels to get out the house. She wasn't having any more of it, and she wants a divorce. Not only that, she arranged to see Hitler to talk to him about it. Now, this was done via Hanke, the man she was seeing on the side, and he did it because he was a Gauleiter. He had access to Hitler. And Magda said to him the words I've used in the title: "A Czech actress has stolen my husband." Anyway, so Hitler, he was a bit concerned about the whole thing. It needs to be pointed out, actually, Hitler, for all his other faults, as far as things like this were concerned, he was actually he could be quite he was quite liberal. There were talks in the Third Reich to make a divorce, to ban it, to make it illegal. Not only that, there was a proposal by Frick, I think it was Wilhelm Frick, that would make if unfaithfulness in marriage would become a criminal offense, and it's a bit odd. I mean, these people, all of them, are seeing other people on the side. Maybe it's just Hitler who was loyal to ever, and Goering, for all his other faults, he was loyal to his wives. But all the others had, Himmler had somebody on the side, and he had children with her. It's the utter hypocrisy. Frick had somebody on the side. It was totally absurd, really. But anyway, so they wanted to bring in these laws, which obviously doesn't actually affect them. Anyway, the thing was this: Hitler came up with a solution. He told Goebbels that he had to dump Lida, and he couldn't see her ever again. And that's what happened. He told her by telephone, and he wrote in his diary words to this effect: "When I do the video of this, sort of the documentary video, I'll get the right quote. I'm now doing it off memory, but it says something like this: My young life now ends. I am totally distraught. There's a terrible cavern opening up inside of me." Or words to that effect, something like that. I can't quite remember what it was now. But anyway, so and that was effectively, as far as Lida was concerned, the end. Now, Hitler did come up with a proposal earlier that maybe they ought to try a trial. That if he would allow a divorce if after 6 months separation, which incidentally was what the proposal was, a proposal of law, which Goebbels himself, I think, had thought of, which was never passed in any case. So Lida, she didn't work in Germany again. She went back to Czechoslovakia. She did do some films because obviously Nazi Germany invaded Czechoslovakia shortly afterwards, and it took, first of all, invaded, to put it like word, it was granted Sudetenland, then it sort of took over the rest of Czechoslovakia. After the war, her sister committed suicide because Lida was arrested and she was accused of treason or collaboration with the enemy, but she was let off. As it turned out, she was released from prison, but everybody abandoned her except for one gentleman, and who used to visit her regularly, and because of that, the two of them actually got married. They stayed together about 1954, something like that. I think they emigrated to Austria and then to Argentina and then back to Austria. But as I just saw the message now, there's interviews with her on YouTube, which I didn't actually know. Now, what the relationship between the two, we don't actually, or at least it mightn't have been a sexual relationship. I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't there but I suspect it mightn't have been, although everybody else sort of says it was, and she certainly sort of gives that to be understood in her memoirs. The thing is this: David Irving told me this, that he interviewed her, and he asked her about the leg brace he had to wear, and she didn't even know about it. And so that does lead me to assume that maybe their relationship wasn't what was claimed to be. Anyway, right, so there's that story. So I'll have a look now at, you know what? I can't see that. I can't, what's this? I can't see the questions that came. Oh, sorry, here's something that's just come up. Oh, here they are. Sorry. New telephone. I didn't think that YouTube would be any different. Right, and so hello, Ian, and yeah. So Ian says there was the interview with Lida on YouTube, which I haven't seen. Hello, Noel, and yeah. Goebbels likely she was very attractive. I must say she's not really my type, but then again, that's me. Hello, Brian, and Bergensee. Right, see, Lanka, this lake, Bergensee, very good, which Ian said. I walked around it last month, and it's really, I suspect then and now it's very similar. One thing, it was really very wild, and thing was, I did think on before going there, because I went in the early morning and I had protective clothing on, so I didn't get bitten by anything, which is like crocodiles or mosquitoes or anything might have been around. And so but really it's very wild. Now we know that, for example, in later there were duck boards there. And so when in April of 1941, Goebbels took his staff out there for a weekend, and he then sort of casually told them, while strolling over these duck boards around Bergensee, that the Nazi Germany was going to attack the Soviet Union, just like that. He thought, oh, and by the way, we're going to attack the Soviet Union, and they had to come up with a plan to resolve this, to how they were going to deal with it with the public. Anyway, I think it's not quite the house that is there now is not on the lake as such. Now, the house that Goebbels he did his entertaining with Lida on. Now it was done up for him. He had a construction crew brought in to do the house. To build it, the forester sort of place. In 2015 there was a fire there, and although it was protected, it was deemed unable. They couldn't save it, and so it was knocked down. So it's not there anymore. It is a really odd place to visit, though. I filmed the whole thing, which when I can upload the thing, you can see it. Because East German authorities built this big sort of complex right next to it, which is now empty. So you've got this huge, looks a bit like rather mainly of a holiday camp more than anything else, but these empty buildings, these really big empty buildings. It's really quite odd, but I think as from sort of thing that appeals to me, it's definitely well worth a visit. Anyway, you can see it when I actually upload the video on it. So here we go with Tim. Hello, Tim. Thank you, and hello, Halash, and thanks for the smaller details. Their comment on it. Okay, Brian suggests that Goebbels might have been gay. Was that the suggestion? Sorry, no, Goebbels wasn't gay. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind on that one. I've asked a number of people who are homosexual, can you tell who's homosexual and who isn't? And because I thought they would be able to tell, and but which would be useful, because then you could ask somebody who's homosexual and say, was this person gay? Was this person gay? But no, I'm pretty certain he wasn't. I mean, there was lots of people within the Third Reich who were homosexual, without any doubt. I mean, we've got these massive amount in the SA at the beginning. There were even people though who survived the. I think Christian Weber was homosexual, for example. And he died in May 1945. So there were those that survived the initial the night of the long knives. The anti-homosexual legislation came in after the night of the long knives. And anyway, sorry, and right. So, if you can stomach a love story featuring Goebbels, The Devil's Mistress is good. Right, is that a book? Because I don't know it. And the or it's something being written by somebody. Did Goebbels write the total worst speech at Bergen's? He did indeed. Yes, Ian. He wrote it there. Again, in the video, and I'm actually the one when I'm walking around, I actually say this, but I haven't uploaded it yet. Yeah, so it was written there. And now the thing about Bergen's or Lanka, it's in fact the place I stayed at is called Pretten, and that so I walked from there. Lanka, though, was closer, but there wasn't a place to park my vehicle there, so I walked through the forest. He used to, when Berlin was going to be bombed, which was happening quite frequently. If he knew about it, he would flee out to Lanka. He might have left his wife and kids at Schwannenwerder, because Schwanenwerder is about 15 kilometers from the center of Berlin, something like that. But it's still there's a certain element of danger. Whereas there at Lanka, there wasn't. In 1940, a British plane was shot down nearby, and he went out to visit. There was three people was at least three bodies were found inside, which were charred, and so he saw them the following day. But in the major bombing, for example, in the autumn of 1943, Goebbels was out there, and he'd watch it from there, well out of harm's way. Well, Hitler was well out of harm's way as well. He was either up his mountain or he was at the Wolf, what's it called, Kenshin, Wiltshire, and that's sorry. What's it in German? Wolfslair. That's Polish, sorry. And yeah, no, Lanka survives, unlike Goering's place. I went out to Goering's place as well in Karenhal, and that is it is the forest has completely overtaken it. I have never seen such a successful reclamation by a forest as at Karenhal. It is really difficult. Now, of course, I appreciate that. Okay, the GPS. I put the coordinates in and all, trying. And okay, maybe it's not absolutely accurate, but you can see in places, you can see some stones which have been cemented together. You can see. I found a bit of a what is clearly a what do you call it, a cellar. But the destruction there is absolute. I'll also look for the place where the Karen was buried. So she had this looking over. It's two lakes then overlooking. But there at Bergensee at Lanka, it's really it's in very good nick. Great. Okay. So, super. Well, thanks very much for watching, and so I think that's about it, really. I haven't got much more to say on there's when I finish, I sort of remember things that I could have said. For example, yesterday when I was talking about Lena, there's somebody mentioned the bitchy way she used to treat Lena Heydrich used to treat Himmler's wife, and I forgot to mention that anyway. But anyway, never mind. Sort of when you do it just off the top of your head, these things can happen. Tomorrow, I haven't made my mind what I might do. I was thinking about doing something on the early days of Putin, and I have mentioned this in the past, but I think I'll do that actually. It depends. Yeah, sort of. I didn't want to do a plan because it depends what I'm sort of in the mood for. Also, if something happens in the world, it might be worth. Then I could maybe change it to reflect what's happening. I don't know. Maybe if they dug up Goering or something, and then I could actually talk about Goering or something like that. You know, I don't know. Anyway, good. So I think I might do Putin, the young Putin, tomorrow. So thanks very much for watching, and all the best from me in Gdansk, Poland. So bye for now.